Local programming on KRWG Public Media made possible in part by viewers like you. Thank you.
Welcome to Fronteras, a changing America. I'm Jonny Coker. Food banks in New Mexico are beginning to feel the effects of federal spending cuts on food assistance programs. The prospect of further cuts have some pantries worried about exacerbating the rate of food insecurity in the state. I have more in this report. As federal cuts to nutrition assistance programs are being debated in the nation's capital, food pantries in southern New Mexico are continuing their work in providing baskets of food to families in need. Kristen Munoz works for Casa de Peregrinos, one of the largest food pantries located in the southern part of the state. Munoz is no stranger to the struggles of hunger faced by so many in New Mexico.
When I was a kid, my family struggled a little bit with food insecurity, and we were on SNAP, and we did go to food banks and stuff, and so I did get to see that from a very young age and understand that feeling of not having those resources and being worried about where your next meal is coming from.
According to the latest data from feedingamerica.org, 16.4% of households in Doña Ana County are considered food insecure, about 3% higher than the nationwide average. Munoz expressed the need for federal programs to continue.
If those programs are cut, then it's a little bit less hope that's in the area, a little bit less support. And some people, that little support is all they have. So without it, they don't have anything. Supporting us is supporting the people. And a country, a state, a county is nothing without its people. And I think when you're in a position of power, it is your responsibility to take care of the people that you have that power over.
Casa de Peregrinos Executive Director Lorenzo Alba Jr. said that the federal cuts will influence the pantry's output and that meeting demand could be a challenge.
We run a really tight budget, so cutting on some other parts of our budget is going to be difficult. So what we're going to have to do is be a little bit more aggressive on fundraising and ask the community to really help us through that piece, because we can't do it without food coming in or money coming into our organization. And that's something that I share with my staff all the time. If there's not food or money coming in every day, we're in trouble.
And while Casa de Peregrinos hasn't taken any major hits yet, the Roadrunner Food Bank, the state's largest food bank, is already seeing the consequences of cuts to the USDA's Emergency Food Assistance Program, according to Katie Anderson, the organization's Vice President of Strategy, Partnerships, and Advocacy.
The challenge at play right now is there is no indication of when, is this food gone forever? Is it going to come back into play again? And the reality too of moving forward, the particular type of food that was canceled makes up about 30% of the total amount of commodities. So moving forward into FY26, does that mean that whole stream of food is now gone, which would be somewhere between 6 to 8 million pounds over the course of the next year?
Anderson said that there's been no communication from the federal entities that the food banks work with, exacerbating challenges in finding ways to fill gaps left by the cuts.
Replacing that food stream of 6 to 8 million pounds, would potentially cost the food banks. It would probably cost us upwards of, $8-9 million, somewhere in there, just to replace that particular stream of food. So the reality is that's not a possibility. We don't have access to funds like that. We're nonprofits. The impact across all sectors of society in our country will be immense if a lot of these things are pushed through.
As debates over funding continue and millions of pounds of food assistance disappear for New Mexicans, it's uncertain how drastically the state's food pantries will be impacted in the coming months. And now joining me to talk about food insecurity and the future of food assistance in New Mexico is the director of the Casa de Peregrinos Food Pantry, Lorenzo Alba Jr. Lorenzo, thanks so much for being in here today.
Oh, thank you for having me, Jonny. I appreciate you having me.
Of course. And I wanted to begin this conversation by asking about your trip to Washington, D.C. You recently went up to talk with the federal delegation and do some advocacy work up there. So how did that trip go?
I thought it went very well. We were able to visit with Senator Ben Ray Lujan, also Senator Heinrich's staff, as well as visit with Representative Gabe Vasquez's staff. I thought it was very fruitful. It wasn't just myself going. It was a group of folks from the Chamber of Commerce doing some advocacy work here for our area. As well as in food insecurity, I had the director of El Caldito, Steven Chavira, with us, and a couple of people from the Economic Development Department, Elizabeth Teeters and Irene Parra, that were there to help us advocate for the kitchens that we're building on the Community of Hope.
And so what are the major concerns that you're bringing to the federal delegation in terms of the future of food insecurity and where Casa de Peregrinos is at as an institution?
Well, on the policy end, we were definitely talking about the Farm Bill. Definitely trying to figure out what was going to happen with the SNAP program, what was going to happen with the TFAP program, the commodities program. Right now, there are really no answers. At that point, they were waiting for what they called skinny budget, which is basically a budget that comes from the administration to them, and then from there they can begin to design what's going on, with some of the funding that's going to go to SNAP through the Farm Bill, some of the funding, some of the other social service programs, what's going to happen with them. So I think everybody's just kind of waiting. I got the sense that for the most part they're ready and willing to work across the lines on certain subjects, on certain issues. I think that that's probably the way to go with what's happening right now and the climate that's going on there in Washington. It was strange because it was a little bit tense at times, being even in that city. Sometimes, you saw a lot of really good stuff going on. Other times you're like, oh, you walk around the streets and it feels a little bit different than other trips I've taken. But for the most part, I think everybody that was there, that we visited with, was ready, willing to work with us and the delegation from Doña Ana County in Las Cruces.
Interesting. That's an interesting perspective. I don't think I've heard that from anyone describing the vibe of DC. You would describe it as a little different than when you've been there in the past because of all these federal cuts, I assume? Or
I think it's not just because of the federal cuts. I think everybody's just kind of waiting to see what's going to happen with this next budget. I mean, the federal fiscal year ends on September 30th. There'll be a lot of changes that happen at that point. What will happen? Will they actually be able to get a budget across the line? I don't know. I think everybody is going to be curious about that. Will that mean furloughs at some point? Will that mean programs getting cut? I'm not sure. I'm not sure if any of that will actually happen. I didn't really get the sense of that from anybody, but I think everybody's just waiting. Our delegation is basically in a waiting game. Their staffs are in a waiting game. They're just as proactive as they are, and I can tell you right now, Representative Gabe Vasquez is one of the most proactive ones being out there, trying to do a lot of things across party lines and really make things happen. Pretty impressed with what he's been doing thus far, trying to make things happen for our community. So it's been really a good thing to see, our young representative, represent us that well. So,
and I think one of the biggest overarching themes of the last few months is a lot of uncertainty within the federal government. I know the Roadrunner food pantry, due to some federal cuts to emergency food assistance programs, have felt on the ground the effect of those cuts for their food assistance programs. I was wondering, and we talked a little bit about this, has Casa de Peregrinos felt the effects of some of these cuts to emergency food assistance programs, or is that yet to be seen?
We've seen some, but not very much. I think most of it's coming, like as our friends at Roadrunner said, through the TFAP program, the commodities program. I think that's seen a lot of cuts already within our state. And the other thing too is that our state actually tries to fund some of this as well. And if it's not getting the matching dollars from the feds on trying to do some of these purchases, it does have an effect on it. We also had a program that was funded by the USDA that was Farm to Food Pantry or Farm to Food Bank. That thing was eliminated completely, and that does have a major effect on us because we were receiving some of that food. As far as how much food is going out, I will give it to our friends at Roadrunner. They are figuring out ways on how to acquire food and get it out to the food pantries and into the communities. And we've been a beneficiary of their efforts. So, to all the team out there at Roadrunner Food Bank, they're doing a fantastic job of making sure that we can move forward with our missions.
That is good to hear. And with all this uncertainty, again, within the federal government, what are you hearing from community members and from supporters of the pantry? Are you seeing more outpouring of support, or are people still pulling back a little bit because of the U.S. is in an uncertain economic situation? Like, what are you feeling from the community?
I think a lot of them are holding back. They're uncertain about how much to donate. I've got an appeal going out here in the next week or so. And that's one of the things I'm asking our community to do, is just to step it up a little bit to see how they react to this. I think really if we receive that assistance, because this is probably the most generous community in all of the state, by far, when it comes to supporting nonprofits. I think at this point, it's a waiting game to see how they're going to react in the next couple of months to how much they donate. Are they able to do as much or a little bit more? Or are they going to do less just to be, because of the uncertainty? It does have an effect on what we do. And for us we run tight budgets, cash flow is always an issue. We need to make sure that we have money coming in or food coming in every single day in order for our mission to move forward. So we're definitely going to try to see how it's going to affect us. But we're going to ask the community, continue to be kind to us, continue to be generous, continue to help us in order for our mission to move forward. The amount of people that are coming in, it's increased slightly. We're seeing quite a few, but it's something that we're prepared to do at this point. We even have a game plan in case something does go awry. What do we do? Well, we know where we have to make cuts, and that'll be a hard thing for us to do, but I don't really want to make any cuts to our staffing. I want to just make sure that we continue to have our staffing, but when it comes to cuts, it'll be how much food goes out, what else is going to happen there. So,
And you mentioned you're seeing some up in demand with folks coming into the pantry. Can you speak a little bit more on that?
Sure. I think the problem is that we don't have enough, there's not really enough New Mexicans signed up for the SNAP program. I think we need to get more people signed up for it. We have an initiative going on where we're partnering with our friends from Albertsons as well as with Roadrunner Food Bank on trying to get more folks signed up for the SNAP program. The way that we feel about it is the more people that we have signed up for it, basically it gives us a little bit of ammunition, if you will, when it comes to reporting back to the feds on what's really happening in our community, what the issues are with poverty, what the issues are with some of the families that are going through very difficult times right now, and why this program is so important. It's a huge part of the Farm Bill. Right. And if any cuts would just be devastating to the actual program. It would be devastating to a lot of New Mexicans, and it would have a major effect on what we do at Casa de Peregrinos. That means that we'd have to step up our game because they're not receiving as many or any SNAP benefits at all. Right. That means people are going to rely solely on the food pantry.
And New Mexico, it does rank higher amongst the national average in terms of food insecurity rates, as I'm sure you're well aware.
Absolutely.
And with that Farm Bill pending, what are the key components that you're watching closely and that will have the biggest effects on food insecurity in our state?
I think that's going to be the key one, right? The SNAP program. If there's cuts to it, it's going to have a major effect on what we do. I know that on the state level, they were trying to come up with solutions to get more folks signed up. That bill failed at the state level, but with that being said, I know that our friends at the Association of Food Banks are working very much directly with the governor's office to try to come up with solutions for that. I think they have a better game plan coming into the next session. I don't know what those plans are, but I know the governor's office had some ideas on trying to do something that will really help folks that are maybe going to be out of the boat here. And in my estimation, I think the best thing that we can do is try to figure out a way to keep the program moving forward, even if it's in a minimal way. I think we need to continue to have it moving forward. Whatever the state can do would be beneficial. Maybe that's what the federal government wants to see. I don't know. Maybe they want to see some sort of collaborative effort when it comes to some of these programs.
And you have spoken recently with the federal delegation, but what kind of discussions and collaboration have you had recently with state legislators and state government? Can you speak a little bit to that and the plan on moving forward?
You know what? This past session was actually very fruitful. We were able to really push for more funding for the food banks, make sure that they have all the resources that they need. I think in a positive way, I think we were able to make an impact. We had Hunger Action Day, where we actually had a lot of folks from all over the state come together and go advocate for food insecurity around the state with not only their legislators, but with the governor's office and everybody else. It was very fruitful for all of us. We were able to see some of the changes that we wanted done. Others just didn't get quite through. But as long as we continue to do the policy work in the state, I think this state is really looking to try to help those folks that are food insecure, that are unhoused, and really kind of putting a focus on some of these social issues that are going on throughout the state. So I like what's happening. Could there be more happening? Absolutely. I think absolutely. One of the things that's going on right now is there's a lot of back and forth about safety, public safety, and those are some of the things that are a little bit more difficult for us to advocate for.
Right, for sure. Can you speak a little bit to, we talk about federal and state collaboration, but what type of community organizations do you work with, whether it's in southern New Mexico or beyond even, in order to, reach the mission that Casa de Peregrinos is moving toward?
We've never done this alone, Johnny, as long as I've been here. The very first lesson I learned when I arrived here at this job was that, Lorenzo, you can't do this by yourself. You need people to help you, and the organizations that have come up and stepped up are in the government agencies. They've all helped us. The city of Las Cruces, they've always helped us. Doña Ana County, they've always helped us. Now they're not only just helping us with funding, but they're also helping us by getting food out into the community. I mean, we're doing these cool pop-up pantries, which we have one going on the 16th at Apodaca Park, with the food bank, Roadrunner Food Bank, and the city of Las Cruces. That's a collaborative effort there to get a lot of food out to a lot of folks. But also they volunteer. They show up when we need them. They deliver food to folks that are not able to come to the pantry. The emergency services department, the fire department, the police department, the sheriff's department, these folks are helping us get food out into the community. That's such an important piece. Some of the mental health agencies, Adult Protective Services, CYFD, they help us get food out into the community. These are efforts that we could not do alone. If we had to have our own delivery program where we were just doing it, it would be very costly, but when you do a collaborative effort like this, you get a lot more food out into the community, and that's what's been helpful for us.
And you mentioned that especially in rural communities around the area, food insecurities, it seems to be much higher looking at the data. What type of work do y'all do in the rural communities of southern New Mexico? Because I know that's been a big part of CASA's expansion projects, correct?
It is absolutely part of our vision. We feel very strongly about the fact that infrastructure is a way to go when it comes to really closing the hunger gap. We opened up a pantry last year in Hatch, and it's paid dividends. We went from serving 150, 175 families at 3 mobile food pantries once a month to now serving 500 families every single month out of 1 pantry in Hatch. That, to me, that shows that this will work. This will help us get food out into those rural areas. So as many of you know, we have some projects going on in Chaparral and in Sunland Park. Those will probably be completed pretty close to about the same time. We're excited about the projects. Those are mainly funded by the city of Sunland Park, Doña Ana County, and capital outlay funding by our representatives. I mean, that's just phenomenal. The fact that we haven't had to go to donors for that has been incredible. And once these are built, I feel like we're really going to make a big dent in the hunger gap in the southern part of the county. The mobile food pantries work for some of those obscure areas of the county, which there are a lot in a county this big. We try to get food in there at least once a month and distribute it. I don't think that program will ever go away, but if we can help close the gap with infrastructure, that's our game plan.
And, with these federal, squabbles at the federal level in terms of funding and stuff, how much does that affect y'all's planning and y'all's foresight in terms of closing these gaps?
It does, because that's what I was up in Washington doing with our friends from the city and El Caldito. We have a bigger project going on where we're trying to build a brand new soup kitchen and some innovation kitchens, some community kitchens on the other side. You know, obviously, we are leaning on capital outlay, but we want to also show our friends at the state that we're going to go after some federal dollars. We got a little bit of positive feedback from Senator Heinrich and from Senator Ben Ray Lujan's office as well. And let me tell you that I feel pretty good about it. Even in these uncertain times, I actually feel pretty good about receiving some funding from them and trying to see some of these dollars through and helping the state out in our efforts here with some of our private donors and some foundation dollars to get this project across the finish line. So we're trying to build some excitement. We're trying to get some community buy-in. And at the same time, we're trying to make sure that our friends at the federal level, our friends at the state level get all the right information that they need in order for us to get this project across the finish line.
I see. And we've talked a lot about the barriers that y'all are facing right now and some of the uncertainty in the world. But, you know, what are some of the opportunities that you see in the future for Casa de Peregrinos in terms of expanding your outreach and bringing food to families who may be food insecure that would be worse off without the help? Like what opportunities do you see?
I think the best opportunities that have happened has been because of the way that Roadrunner Food Bank does business now. They are more concerned about getting food out into the community than anything else that they do. And it's phenomenal to work with them right now. I really enjoy working with, you know, Dana Yost and her team, and his team. They've just been amazing. Dana and his team have just been incredible when it comes to making sure that the food pantries that are out there doing the work get as much food as they need to get the food, you know, to get to their clients, to get to the families. And whatever they have to do to get it to us, they're doing it. They want to collaborate with us, they want to work with us, they want to communicate with us and making sure that this happens. Also what the city and the county are doing to help us get, you know, doing these areas is incredible. I mean, we couldn't do it without the city of Las Cruces, without Doña Ana County to make some of these things happen. I think it's just only going to get better with them too. Those relationships are only going to get better, and that I can assure you of. I think they're willing to work with us, just as they are with Community of Hope on housing. You know, they're working with us on food insecurity. They're working with us, the leaders there, the commissioners, the councilors, the mayor, the administrations are really willing to, you know, listen to us and see this mission forward.
And Lorenzo, when you talk to people about the importance of the work that you do and the work that Casa de Peregrinos and its partners do, what is the overarching message, especially as we move into a future where we may be seeing cuts to these types of programs?
One thing that is certain is that food insecurity is not going to go away anytime soon. We can do all that we can and make it easier for people, add a little bit of relief, if you will, for them, but it's still difficult when you live in a state like New Mexico, where we have high poverty levels in certain parts of the state. You know, southern part of Doña Ana County, the poverty levels linger from 38 to 41%. You know, it's not going to go away anytime soon. I think that as long as we build infrastructure, add other services there, other social services there, besides just a food pantry, I think we'll really, really begin to kill a few birds with one stone when it comes to what the needs of the families are there. We need to go to them. We do need to go to them. I don't believe that the only way out of this is just by building one big building in Las Cruces and let everybody come. I'm of the belief that the more you do in the rural areas, the more relief that actually comes to the actual metro area of our county. And that's what our goal is at Casa de Peregrinos, is to take these facilities to them so that they can call them, hey, this is ours. I can come here and receive assistance. We want some of our friends to come out there, you know, like what Jardín de los Niños is doing in Hatch. We want that kind of stuff to begin to happen all over the county. Why can't we have a soup kitchen in the southern part of the county? Why can't we have Community of Hope helping out our unhoused in that part of the county with a facility there where they can come receive services? We need these kind of efforts, and I think more folks need to come out of the woodwork and help out in getting more services out to the rural areas.
Well, I think that's a beautiful sentiment. Lorenzo, we don't have a ton of time left, but for individuals or families who may need help with food insecurity or some of these services that you just mentioned, what's a good way for them to find y'all?
Come see us. Look at our social network pages, our Facebook, our Instagram. There's always information there about what we're doing. Look at our website at casadeperegrinos.org, And then, or give us a call at 575-523-5542 and ask for any information that you need to know. We're open Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays. In the morning, we open up till about 11, and in the afternoon, we open up till about 3 or 4. We're serving about 1,000 clients every week out of the food pantry in Las Cruces, and that's above and beyond what's going on in the rural areas too. So come by and see us. We're here for you. This pantry was built for you. It's working the way it's supposed to for you, and we'd love to see you if you need our assistance.
And I know you mentioned a couple of upcoming events. Are there some events you'd like to plug?
Yes, we have Taste of Las Cruces coming up. That's one of our staple events. This is a collaboration with the Rotary Clubs of Las Cruces, and we're excited about it. It's a way for you to come taste some of the great food that some of our local restaurateurs and some of the restaurants here in town will be sharing with the community. We've also got a silent auction going on that day. Tickets are on sale. Look at tasteoflascruces.org or at casadeperegrinos.org for information, or go to our Facebook or our Instagram for more information on that.
Lorenzo Alba Jr. is the Executive Director of the Casa de Peregrinos Food Pantry here in Las Cruces. Lorenzo, I really appreciate you coming on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me again. I was love coming.
Of course. And that's all for today's episode. Remember, you can stay up to date on the latest local news at krwg.org. For all of us here at KRWG Public Media, I'm Jonny Coker, and we'll see you next time on Fronteras, A Changing America.